Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 24.2b. I've entitled this video, The Maori. This video is going to cover pages 742 to 743. The Maori of New Zealand. The first humans to live on the islands of New Zealand were the Maori. The Maori people came to New Zealand much later than the Aboriginal people came to Australia. Historians believe that sometime between AD 800 and 1300, humans began traveling in canoes from Polynesian islands such as Tahiti to New Zealand. The Maori built villages and lived in tribal groups led by chiefs. Tribes traded and went to war with other Maori tribes. Nearly all early Maori settlements were located on North Island. Question number 1. Who were the first humans to live on the islands of New Zealand? The Maori. Question 2. When do historians believe that the Aboriginal people first came to New Zealand? They first came to New Zealand, these Maori people, sometime between 800 AD and 1300 AD. Question 3. Where did the first people that came to New Zealand come from? We believe they came from the Polynesian islands like Tahiti, and they traveled there by canoe. Question 4. Who would lead a Maori tribal group? A chief. Question 5. What interactions did Maori tribes have with other Maori tribes? Well, sometimes they would trade with those other tribes, and sometimes they would go to war with those other tribes. The Maori way of life had minimal impact on the environment. They fished, gathered plants, and hunted wild animals for food. Huge flightless birds called moa, pictured here, were easy prey and became an important part of the Maori diet. Eventually, the Maori hunted all 10 species of moa to extinction. In time, the Maori introduced food crops such as taro, pictured bottom left, and yams. Boating and diving were important parts of Maori life. Canoes carved from the trunks of massive trees were used for transportation and also as vehicles for warfare. Question number 6. How did the Maori survive? Well, they had a hunter-gatherer kind of society. They fished, they gathered plants, and they hunted wild animals. So they were hunter-gatherers. Question 7. What were the moa and how were they important to the Maori people? The moa were flightless birds, as you can see pictured here, and they became an important part of the Maori life because they were a huge part of their diet. They would eat them, and they ate a lot of them. In fact, for question number 8, what eventually happened to the moa bird? They were hunted to extinction. They ate all of the birds. They were all gone. Question 9. What 2 food crops eventually became a part of the Maori diet? Well, once the moa are gone, they needed other things to eat, so they ate the taro and they ate the yams. Question 10. What 2 activities became important parts of Maori life? You had boating and diving, so they were big into water. Makes sense, since they're on an island. Question 11. How did the Maori create canoes? Well, they would carve these canoes from the trunks of big trees. Question 12. How did the Maori use the canoes? Well, makes sense. They used them for transportation and also to travel to get to their enemy in warfare. Maori culture. The Maori have a spiritual belief system based on the concept that all life in the universe is connected. At the heart of Maori culture is tikanga. Tikanga are Maori customs and traditions passed down through generations. Maori tradition says that tikanga comes from tika, the, quote, things that are true, which began with all creation at the dawn of time. According to tikanga, the past is always in front of an individual, there to teach and guide that person. The future is behind the individual, hidden and unknown. Tikanga is part of everyday Maori life, from building homes and preparing food and medicine to social customs and arts, such as kapahaka. Kapahaka is a traditional Maori art form combining music, dance, singing, and facial expressions. And you can see that pictured in the bottom of this slide. Question number 13. What is an important spiritual belief that the Maori have about the universe? They believe that all life in the universe is connected. Question 14. What is tikanga to the Maori people? Those are their customs and traditions that have been passed down from one generation to the next generation. Question 15. What is tika to the Maori people? That is the tradition that says that tikanga comes from all the things that are true, which began at the start of time. Question 16. According to Takanga, what can the past do for a person? The past can teach and guide that person. So as a history teacher myself, I really think that's a cool concept because that's why I teach history. I do believe there's lessons you can learn from the past. Question 17. According to Takanga, what is the future for a person? It is behind the individual. It's hidden and unknown. You don't know what is ahead in the future. Question 18. How does Takanga impact Maori life? Well, it impacts every part of Maori life, from how they build their homes, how they prepare their food, how they prepare their medicines, how they have social customs and arts. It impacts every part of Maori life. Question 19. What is kapahaka? That is a traditional Maori art form that combines music, dance, singing, and facial expressions, as you can see pictured there and there. Yes, Houdini. Now you're part of the video. I hope you're happy. One of the most important parts of any culture is language. Before Europeans arrived in New Zealand, the Maori people spoke different dialects of the same language. When New Zealand was colonized by the British, many Maori began speaking English. Over time, fewer and fewer people spoke the traditional Maori language, even in their homes. By the mid-1900s, the language had become so rare, it was in danger of dying out. The efforts of Maori leaders and activists brought the Maori language back from the brink of extinction. During the 1970s and 1980s, the Maori language was reborn as language recovery programs and schools across New Zealand taught younger generations to speak Maori. In 1987, Maori became an official language of New Zealand. Question number 20. How did British colonization impact language in New Zealand? Well, because the British people speak English, when they arrived and colonized the area, many Maori began speaking that language, and more spoke English, which meant fewer and fewer were speaking the traditional Maori language. Question 21. What almost happened to the Maori language in the mid-1900s? It almost died out. Question 22. What happened to the Maori language in the 1970s and 1980s? It was reborn. They brought it back. They used programs and they taught the younger people to speak it. And so it had a jump up in the amount of people that were speaking it, which leads to 23. What language became an official language of New Zealand in 1987? Maori. A unique part of Maori culture is the sacred practice of facial tattooing. Maori tattoos are permanent decorations on the body made by cutting designs into the skin, then rubbing black soot into the cuts. Traditionally, Maori boys were tattooed during puberty as a rite of passage into manhood. Question 24. What is a sacred practice of Maori culture? Facial tattoos. Question 25. What is the process the Maori use to tattoo their people? Well, they actually cut designs into the skin and then they rub black soot into the cuts so that it becomes a permanent part of your body. Question 26. Traditionally, when would Maori boys get tattooed? During puberty, and that would be their rite of passage into manhood. Each individual's tattoo was unique, showing his ancestry, status in the tribe, military rank, profession, and family relationships. Maori tattooing is still practiced in New Zealand as an expression of cultural pride and identity. Other Maori art forms such as weaving, painting, and wood carving are also important parts of past and present Maori culture. Question number 27. What makes the tattoos unique in the Maori culture? Well, the tattoos aren't just randomly put on you. They show things like your ancestry, your status in the tribe, your military rank, your profession, and your family relationships. So the tattoos actually speak to who you are as a person. They're not just some random, hey, give me I love mom, for example, of a tattoo on your body. They actually do speak to who you are and where you've come from. Question 28. What are some common art forms practiced in the Maori culture that can express their cultural pride and identity? Well, besides the tattooing, you've also got weaving, painting, and wood carving. Well, thank you so much. Before we go, since we did sort of close there with the Maori tattooing, I thought I would leave with this meme. Influencer responds to people saying she will regret tattoo of boyfriend's name on her forehead. Yeah, the Maori, it's a cultural thing. This woman, I think, has made a very poor choice. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.